fast, it's relentless. And if you're not constantly moving forward, well, you risk falling behind pretty quickly.
That's absolutely right. Staying competitive isn't just about keeping up. It's about finding that genuine edge.
Exactly. And often that edge doesn't come from just, making small tweaks here and there. It comes from something much bigger, something transformative. That's where this idea of business process reengineering, or BPR, comes in. And we're not talking about those small incremental improvements. BPR is about fundamentally rethinking things, radically redesigning how work actually gets done. It's a pretty powerful concept.
It really is. And it's important, I think, to distinguish it clearly from other ideas like continuous improvement or Kaizen, as it's often called.
Right. Kaizen is more about those small steps, isn't it?
Precisely. Kaizen focuses on ongoing refinements, making things gradually better. BPR, on the other hand, is aiming for drastic change. A complete overhaul, really.
So it's like saying, let's not just tune up the engine, let's rethink the whole car.
That's a great analogy. It's essentially a directive to reinvent the wheel, starting completely from scratch with a process, not just trying to make the old one spin a bit faster or smoother.
Right.
And, this isn't some brand new fad. BPR, as a concept, it's been a critical tool, especially for American businesses, for, well, over 2 decades now.
Wow, that long.
Yeah. And its potential, its transformative power, is now really being recognized and adopted much more widely, globally.
Okay, so that sets the stage perfectly. Our mission today, then, is to really take a deep dive into the crucial role, and I think for many, it might be a surprising role, that information technology, IT, plays in making BPR even possible.
It's fundamental.
We're going to be drawing on quite a bit of research, looking at real-world case studies, basically giving you a shortcut to getting truly well-informed on this. So you'll understand not just what BPR is, but why IT is, well, it's unsung hero, perhaps.
Definitely a key enabler, at the very least.
Yeah. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more. For anyone listening who might be hearing business process reengineering for the first time, or maybe they just associate it with, some buzzword from the past.
Yeah.
What are we actually talking about at its absolute core?
Yeah, good question. Because it can sound a bit abstract, at its heart, BPR involves taking a close look at a specific business process. You break it down into its core components. What goes in the input, what happens to it, the processing, and what comes out the outcome.
Input, processing, outcome. Got it.
Right. And BPR really zooms in on that middle part, the processing. The whole goal is to figure out how to make that part dramatically more efficient, how to slash waste, and ultimately how to achieve your business objectives in a fundamentally better way.
So it's not just doing the same tasks faster, it's changing how the tasks are done.
Exactly. It's a total overhaul of the how, rather than just optimizing the what. It often involves asking really basic questions like, why do we do this at all? Or, is there a completely different way to achieve this outcome?
Okay, that makes sense. Now, connecting this back to IT, you said it's fundamental. It seems almost unimaginable, thinking about it, to change the basic design or structure of a major business process today without strong IT backing. Why is that? What makes IT so critical here?
Well, it's more than just helpful. IT is explicitly identified in a lot of the literature and practice as a key execution parameter of BPR.
A key execution parameter, meaning you can't really execute BPR without it.
Pretty much. In fact, you could argue that the very development of modern IT, its incredible ability to, collect, manipulate, store, and share huge amounts of information, that development actually opened the likelihood of reengineering in the first stage.
So IT created the possibility for this kind of radical change.
In many ways, yes. Think about it. Before sophisticated IT systems, radical transformation was often severely limited by manual processes, by paperwork, by the sheer human capacity needed to manage information and coordinate complex steps.
Right. The bottlenecks were often physical or human.
Exactly. But with IT, suddenly you can manage incredible complexity, you can connect different parts of the organization instantly, automate tasks that were tedious and error-prone. IT fundamentally changes the art of the possible. And there's this really strong interdependency. Research shows quite clearly that organizations trying to innovate just through BPR without leveraging IT, or those just implementing new IT without rethinking the processes, they simply don't get the same results.
So the synergy.
Absolutely. IT and BPR working together yield far better results than either one could achieve on its own. They really amplify each other.
So when you say IT enables what was once impossible, what's the practical upshot for businesses? How does IT actually drive this transformation? What does it look like on the ground?
The practical upshot is, well, it's profound. IT allows for change that's not only efficient, but also truly effective on a scale and at a speed that was previously just unattainable. Think of IT not just as a tool sitting alongside the process, but as a catalyst, almost an engine. It doesn't just support the new re-engineered process. In many cases, it defines what that new process can even look like.
So it shapes the possibilities.
Precisely. It pushes the boundaries of what a business can actually achieve. It becomes the engine driving that radical redesign we talked about. And IT plays this really fascinating, multifaceted role in BPR. It's not just one thing. For instance, sometimes IT acts as a limitation.
A limitation? How so?
Well, by showing what's currently impossible with the existing technology. That gap highlights areas that are ripe for re-engineering, areas where a tech upgrade could unlock huge potential.
Okay, so it highlights the need for change.
Right. Then, conversely, it serves as an impetus. It drives new ideas and possibilities. You get new tech, and suddenly people start thinking, hey, what if we could do X? It sparks the what-if factor.
I see.
It also functions as an unbiased facilitator. Automated systems can streamline processes without the inherent human biases or inconsistencies that can creep into purely manual systems.
More objective processing.
Yes. And clearly, it's a driver of change, actively pushing the transformation forward, making the new process feasible. It's also an incredibly empowering influence, giving both people and systems entirely new capabilities they didn't have before.
Empowering how?
Giving employees access to information they never had, allowing systems to perform complex calculations or automations instantly, connecting teams across distances. It fundamentally changes capabilities.
Makes sense.
And maybe most importantly, in today's world, it can be a proactive force. Good IT systems allow organizations to analyze trends, anticipate future needs, and adapt proactively, rather than just reacting when something breaks or a competitor makes a move.
Wow, there's quite a range of roles.
Yeah.
It really does sound like IT can be the ultimate enabler if used correctly.
It can be.
So let's dig into the tangible benefits then. When companies get this right, when they successfully merge BPR and IT, what are the concrete advantages they see? What does it actually do for the business?
Okay, we can break this down into a few key areas. First, you see significantly enhanced operations. IT just dramatically improves core business processes. Think about communication, for example.
Okay.
Modern IT allows seamless interaction, collaboration across global teams, breaking down silos. Unified communication technologies make a huge difference.
Yeah, geography becomes less of a barrier.
Exactly. Then look at inventory management. It shifts from, rough estimates and periodic counts to real-time, precise tracking and forecasting. Huge savings there.
Less waste, better fulfillment.
Right. And customer relationship management, CRM. With integrated IT, all customer interactions, history, preferences are instantly accessible to anyone who needs them. That allows for much more personalized and effective service.
A single view of the customer, essentially.
That's the goal. And even in more technical areas like computer-aided design, CAD, and computer-aided manufacturing, CM, IT powers these, streamlining complex design workflows, reducing manual handoffs between design and production, ensuring accuracy, speeding up time to market.
So smoother operations across the board. What else?
Second, and this is massive, IT provides incredible data mastery. Its capacity to handle vast amounts of information efficiently is just unparalleled.
Right. The sheer volume of data businesses generate now is staggering.
It is. And IT excels at collecting it, manipulating it, storing it securely, and then disseminating it to provide crucial feedback for decision-making. We're talking about sophisticated systems here.
Like what?
Things like management information systems, MIS, decision support systems, DSS, and perhaps the best-known enterprise resource planning, ERP system.
ERP systems, right. They integrate everything.
They aim to, yes. And these aren't just fancy databases. They are powerful engines designed to transform raw data sales figures, production numbers, customer feedback, whatever, into actionable insights. They help managers make better, faster, more strategic decisions based on evidence, not just gut feeling.
So better decisions driven by data. That's huge. Is there a third area?
Yes, a really important one, organizational flexibility. IT enables a significant shift away from those rigid, traditional functional structures.
You mean like the marketing department, the sales department, the production department, all kind of operating in their own worlds?
Exactly. Those silos where departments might rarely communicate effectively, IT helps break those down, enabling much more flexible, team-oriented, cross-functional approaches.
How does it do that?
Well, partly through shared data and systems, but also by overcoming geographical barriers, as the research often puts it. Electronic communications, shared virtual workspaces, video conferencing. It means teams can collaborate effectively, whether they're in the same building or spread across continents.
So it enables new ways of structuring work and the organization itself, making it more agile.
Precisely. It's about enabling new ways of working and structuring the organization for speed and adaptability in a changing market.
Okay, those are compelling advantages. Do you have maybe a specific example that really brings this to life?
Absolutely. Let's take Ford Motor Company. Their accounts payable transformation is a classic BPR case study, heavily enabled by IT.
Accounts payable. Okay, it sounds, well, I mean, not glamorous, but important.
Hugely important and historically incredibly inefficient and paper-intensive for large companies. Ford notoriously had something like 500 people working in their North American accounts payable department.
500 people just paying bills.
Essentially, yes. Matching purchase orders to receiving documents to invoices, mountains of paperwork. Through BPR, enabled by IT, they managed to reduce that headcount to just 125.
Wow, that's a 75% reduction. How on earth did they do that?
They fundamentally re-engineered the process. Instead of waiting for an invoice from the supplier, they decided not to pay when they received an invoice. Instead, they instituted a system where payment was triggered automatically when the goods received in their warehouses matched the electronic purchase order in the system.
So they eliminated the invoice from the process entirely.
For the most part, yes. They created an online database. When a buyer issued a purchase order, it went into the database. When the receiving department got the goods, they checked the database. If the goods matched an order, they accepted them, and the system automatically scheduled the payment. If there was no match, the shipment was simply refused.
So no match, no payment. Simple as that.
Basically, it shifted the burden of accuracy onto the supplier and eliminated almost all the paper shuffling and manual matching within Ford. Imagine the sheer volume of paper, the time spent chasing discrepancies, all drastically reduced.
That's incredible. A really clear example of rethinking the how.
Definitely. Or look at Asian Paints, India's largest paint company. They face challenges with inventory management and service levels.
Okay.
By integrating supply chain management, SCM software, with their ERP system, they managed to get their finished goods inventory down from an average of 56 days worth to just 30 days.
Nearly cut it in half.
Yeah.
Yes. Which freed up a huge amount of working capital, and at the same time, they managed to achieve impressive service levels, between 87% and 90% fulfillment rate for their stock-keeping units, their individual products. Better inventory and better service thanks to integrated IT managing the whole supply chain.
So these aren't just, marginal gains. These are examples of IT fundamentally changing how these companies operate, driving massive shifts in efficiency, cost, and capability.
Exactly. It truly changes the way they work, as one study put it.
And just think about that. Imagine the kind of time and cost savings this could mean for your business, or, honestly, even streamlining your own personal workflows if you applied similar thinking. That's the real tangible power we're talking about when IT and BPR really click together.
Mm-hmm.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Nothing this powerful, this transformative, comes without its own set of, significant hurdles and risks.
Oh, absolutely not. While BPR fueled by IT promises these amazing results, there are definitely potential catch-22 situations, as you might call them, and some pretty considerable risks involved when you try to implement this. It's definitely not always a smooth ride.
That's putting it mildly sometimes. It can be a very bumpy road, and failures are, unfortunately, quite common if not managed properly.
So what are the main pitfalls? What goes wrong?
Well, one of the biggest ones, and maybe the most obvious, is simply high costs.
Right. New systems, consultants.
Yeah.
It sounds expensive.
It is. These projects often require a really substantial initial investment. You've got hardware, software licenses, often fees for external consultants to help design and implement the changes.
And it doesn't stop there, I imagine.
Not at all. You've got ongoing running costs, software maintenance, periodic upgrades, maybe retraining staff. It adds up. And a key issue is cost uncertainty. It's notoriously difficult to budget these projects accurately up front.
So they often go over budget.
Frequently. That's why businesses really need to factor in generous contingency allowances. Cost overruns are a very real risk.
Okay, cost is a big one. What else?
Another major concern is security vulnerabilities.
Ah, yes. If everything's connected and data-driven.
Exactly. The very capability of IT to handle and centralize vast amounts of information also makes companies incredibly vulnerable if that security isn't rock solid. We're talking about risks like fraud, both internal and external, hacking attempts, ransomware, and potentially massive data loss or breaches.
Yeah, you hear about those breaches all the time.
You do. And the consequences can be devastating. Think about the Sony cyber attack a few years back. Reports suggested it resulted in something like a $15 million financial loss from that single incident, not to mention the reputational damage.
Ouch.
So protecting sensitive customer data, financial information, intellectual property in these new, highly integrated, re-engineered systems, it's absolutely paramount, and it's a constant, ongoing battle.
Okay, costs, security. What about the people side?
Yes. Perhaps the most challenging and often underestimated hurdle is human and organizational resistance.
People don't like change.
It's often more complex than that, but yes, that's a big part of it. Employees often view BPR with suspicion. Sometimes they see it, maybe rightly or wrongly, as just a fancy term for downsizing or job cuts.
Which, like in the Ford example, can sometimes happen.
It can. And even if jobs aren't cut, roles change, familiar tasks disappear, new skills are required. This uncertainty and the need to learn new, unfamiliar ways of working can understandably lead to rigidity, fear, and strong resistance.
Makes sense.
And what's interesting is that it's often easier to manage resistance from individuals than it is from groups. When a whole team or department feels threatened or disrupted, their group cohesiveness can actually work against the change. It can lead to something called organizational inertia.
Organizational inertia, like the whole group just digs its heels in.
Pretty much. It's like trying to turn a supertanker with a canoe paddle, as one analogy goes. The collective resistance is much harder to overcome than individual pockets of concern. It's often said the biggest bugs in a BPR project aren't in the software code, but in the org code, the human resistance.
So the human element is critical.
Absolutely critical. Ignoring it is probably the single biggest predictor of failure, regardless of how good the technology is.
Okay. Are there other common failure points?
Yes, definitely. We frequently see management and planning issues derail these projects.
Such as?
Well, poor IT governance is one. If the leadership doesn't really understand the IT investments being made, or if the management of the IT side of the project is weak, you can end up spending a lot of money for very little return.
Misaligned investments.
Right. Then there's the problem of a badly defined scope. Setting unrealistic objectives, having plans that don't actually reflect the complexity on the ground. This can lead to systems with defects, missed deadlines, and ultimately outright failure because the goalposts were wrong from the start.
Scope creep, or just starting with the wrong scope altogether.
Both can be killers, and perhaps most critically, a lack of top management commitment.
Even if they approved it initially.
Yes. BPR projects are often long, difficult, and expensive. If that initial enthusiasm from senior leadership wanes, if they don't stay actively involved, championing the project, removing roadblocks, the project can quickly lose budget, lose priority, lose support from the rest of the organization, and eventually just get abandoned, even if the initial idea was sound.
So that sustained leadership backing is crucial.
Absolutely essential. There's a stock example, actually, involving a company called the Comp Group, a manufacturer in the Middle East.
Okay, what happened there?
They attempted to implement SAP R3, which is a major, well-known ERP system. The implementation dragged on for years, went significantly over budget, and in the end, the benefits they achieved were far, far lower than what they had anticipated.
Why did it go so wrong?
A combination of factors, it seems. Part of it was technical. They apparently had outdated IT infrastructure that wasn't really ready for such a complex system. But critically, employees weren't adequately trained or lacked experience with the new functions they were supposed to use.
Ah, the human element again.
Yes, and reports also mention improper execution of the project plan itself. The end result wasn't just a failed project in terms of ROI. It created widespread negativity among employees towards any future re-engineering efforts.
That's a huge hidden cost, isn't it? Poisoning the well for future change.
Exactly. It makes the next attempt at improvement even harder because people remember the previous failure and are understandably cynical.
So, pulling these threads together, what's the core lesson from these kinds of setbacks? It really sounds like just throwing fancy technology at a business problem isn't the answer.
That's precisely it. These examples hammer home a crucial point. BPR is not just a technological strategy. It is deeply, fundamentally intertwined with human behavior, organizational culture, and management practices.
You can't separate them.
You can't. Overlooking the people, the process, the politics, the culture, That's almost always a recipe for failure, no matter how sophisticated the IT solution might be.
Right.
Sometimes the biggest bugs, as we said, aren't in the software. They're in the organizational chart or in people's heads.
Right. Given all these potential pitfalls, these daunting challenges, what separates the BPR success stories from those cautionary tales like the comp group?
Yeah.
How do organizations actually navigate these complexities successfully?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Or maybe multi-million, given the costs involved. What are the critical success factors? How do you ensure IT-enabled BPR leads to triumph, not disaster?
Okay. The research and practical experience point pretty consistently to several core requirements and best practices that you see in successful transformations.
Let's hear them.
First off, clear vision and well-defined goals are absolutely paramount. Success really hinges on having complete and accurate requirements at the beginning of the project.
Knowing exactly what you're trying to achieve and why.
Yes, and allocating enough time to define and determine those requirements. Rushing this initial phase is a huge mistake. Without that foundational clarity, you're essentially building on shaky ground. It almost guarantees scope creep later on, or building something that doesn't actually solve the right problem.
Okay, clarity up front. What's next?
Second, and we touched on this with the failures, is strong leadership and unwavering commitment from the very top.
Not just signing off, but staying involved.
Absolutely. Top management has to do more than just initiate the project. They need to truly understand it, believe in it, and provide continuous sponsorship support and ongoing commitment throughout the often lengthy process. They need to be visible champions, clearing obstacles, communicating the vision.
So leadership matters.
Hugely. Leadership, empowering the teams doing the work, and ensuring the IT strategy is aligned. These are consistently ranked among the most important factors for success. It really needs that top-down drive combined with bottom-up engagement.
Okay. Vision, leadership. What about the employees who have to live with the changes?
Right. Third point, employee involvement and intensive training. This is crucial for countering that organizational resistance we talked about earlier.
How do you involve them effectively?
It means more than just telling them what's happening. It means actively seeking their input on process design, leveraging their frontline knowledge, and critically, it means providing intensive training.
Why intense?
To significantly increase employee confidence and familiarity with the new processes, the new technologies. If people feel competent and understand the why behind the change, they're far less likely to resist it. Success is also very often attributed to the effective use of cross-functional teams.
Bringing people together from different departments.
Yes. This helps break down those traditional functional hierarchies or silos. It fosters collaboration, ensures different perspectives are considered, and helps build buy-in across the organization. It makes people feel like they're part of building the solution, not just having a solution imposed on them.
Makes sense. People support what they help create.
Generally, yes. Fourth, there's the strategic integration of IT itself. This isn't just about buying software. It's about how IT is managed and deployed.
What does that involve?
Well, for starters, companies should seriously consider having their own IT department with IT professionals in charge, or at least very strong internal IT leadership, rather than being completely reliant on external vendors.
Why is that important?
Internal teams often have a much deeper understanding of the organization's unique culture, specific needs, and existing systems. Relying solely on outsiders can sometimes lead to solutions that don't quite fit.
Okay.
Then there's the technical infrastructure itself. You need to maintain up-to-date and compatible hardware and software. Consistency across the organization is key to avoid integration nightmares down the line.
No point re-engineering a process if the tech can't support it reliably.
Exactly. And building on the security point we discussed, this means implementing robust security measures, effective antivirus, firewalls, intrusion detection, comprehensive security programs to protect that increasingly valuable and centralized data. Regular backups are also non-negotiable.
Basic IT hygiene, but critical at scale.
Critical. And finally, under IT integration, there's proper data management. This involves organizing data effectively, perhaps in data warehouses, and using techniques like data mining for insightful analysis. You need to turn that flood of data generated by the new processes into strategic assets, not just let it sit there.
So manage the tech, secure the tech, leverage the data.
That's a good summary. And there's perhaps one final factor, maybe number 5.
Okay.
Continuous improvement. Even after the initial BPR project is done, the work isn't over.
So BPR isn't a one-shot deal.
Not really. The business environment keeps changing, technology evolves, customer expectations shift. So successful organizations implement continuous monitoring of the new processes, gather feedback, and make ongoing adjustments and refinements. EPR might initiate a radical leap, but it should ideally kickstart a culture of ongoing innovation, perhaps closer to Kaizen after the big leap.
Interesting. So the radical change sets a new baseline, and then you continuously improve from there.
That's often the ideal cycle, yes. BPR isn't meant to be a one-and-done event. It initiates a transformation that needs ongoing nurturing and adaptation.
Listening to these success factors, clear vision, leadership involving people, smart tech integration, continuous improvement, it strikes me they aren't just for huge multinational corporations launching massive ERP projects, are they?
Not at all.
The underlying principles seem applicable, even if you are running a much smaller initiative, maybe improving a process within your team, or even managing your own personal projects more effectively.
Absolutely. The scale might be different, the specific tools might vary, but the fundamental need for a well-defined plan, for commitment from the key players, for bringing people along, for using the right tools smartly, and for being adaptable enough to learn and refine your approach. Those are pretty universal principles for successful change.
That's a great point. It brings it down to a more relatable level for everyone listening. So let's try to wrap things up. In this deep dive today, we've really explored how business process reengineering, especially when it's strategically powered by information technology, can be a genuine game changer for organizations. It offers this incredible potential for dramatic gains in efficiency, really significant cost reductions, and ultimately providing superior service to customers.
The upside is certainly compelling.
But as we've also made very clear, it's a complex journey. It's definitely not easy. It's fraught with challenges, financial, technical, and perhaps, most importantly, human. Success demands really meticulous planning, unwavering leadership commitment, and a deep, empathetic understanding of human adaptation and resistance to change.
That's very well put. We've seen clearly that IT and modern information systems, they aren't just passive tools that you bolt onto a process. They are integral forces shaping modern business, driving innovation, enabling new possibilities, provided they are understood, implemented, and managed correctly within that broader human and organizational context.
It really comes back to that synergy.
It does. As some of the research states, the success of IT enables the organizations to empower business reengineering. One truly unlocks the potential of the other, allowing companies to achieve transformative results, to reach capabilities that were, frankly, just unthinkable only a few decades ago.
So thinking about all this, the immense potential, but also the significant risks.
Yes.
This raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on. In light of these powerful transformations and the critical pitfalls we've discussed today, how can you, whether you happen to be leading a team or maybe an entire company, or perhaps you're just managing your own significant personal projects, how can you identify genuine opportunities to truly reinvent the wheel using IT?
Moving beyond just the small tweaks.
Exactly. Not just making those incremental improvements, but finding ways to make a radical leap. What underlying assumptions that you hold, or perhaps what legacy ways of thinking or working might be holding you back right now from making that kind of radical shift toward dramatic improvement in whatever domain you operate in?
That's a powerful question to ponder. What invisible constraints are we accepting?
Something to think about.